Today's video is on factoring trinomials. So here is a trinomial right in here. Ax squared plus bx plus c, where a and b are the coefficients of x squared and c is a constant. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be factoring these into two binomials that make up or that multiply together to give you this trinomial. So here's our procedure for doing that. We need to find two numbers that add together to equal b and multiply to equal a times c. All right, once we've done that, we're going to rewrite our original expression by splitting our b into the two numbers we find in step 1. Then we will group our trinomial into two binomials based on common factors. We'll find the greatest common factor of each group and factor it out, and then we'll factor out a common binomial. Now I know this all doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but as we work through it, it will start to get a little clearer. So here's our first problem. We want to factor, I should write that in there, we should factor x squared plus 5x plus 6. So our first step, it says find two numbers that add to equal b and multiply to equal a times c. So here's our b right here. 5 is our b. 6 is our c. You notice we don't have an a over here. Well, remember, x squared is the same thing as saying 1x squared, so 1 is our a. So we need to find two numbers that multiply together to equal 1 times 6, which is 6, and add together to equal 5. So the way we do that, we just find our factors of 6. 6 is 6 times 1. Well, 6 plus 1 is 7. Doesn't equal 5. That doesn't work. 6 is also 3 times 2. Well, if I add them, 3 plus 2, that equals 5, which is what we want it to equal. Equals our b. So that's good. Step 1 is finished. We found that our two numbers we're going to work with are 3 and 2. So now we want to split b into our two numbers. So we're going to rewrite our entire expression. X squared just stays x squared. We're going to rewrite 5x as 2x plus 3x. And then we're just going to bring down our 6. So all we've done here is we've said 5x, that's the same thing as 2x plus 3x. If you think combining like terms, 2x's, 3x's, together we have 5x's. So there we go, that's step 2. Now, step 3 says group our terms based on common factors. Well, that's actually pretty simple. All we have to do is we take our first two terms and our second two terms, we put parentheses around them to combine them, to group them. So now, that's step 3, grouping them. Step 4 says factor each group as much as possible. So we want to go up here and we want to say, what is the greatest common factor of x squared and 2x? Well, we look at this. X squared, that's x times x. 2x is 2 times x. They each contain an x, so I pull that out. And then in parentheses, I leave x squared divided by x. That's just x. 2x divided by x, that's plus 2. So all I did is I took x squared plus 2x, I factored out an x, and I'm left with x plus 2. Alright, now we want to do the same thing with these two terms. So 3x plus 6. Well, we know x isn't going to be in our greatest common factor because 3x has an x, 6 does not. But what can I find? Well, 3 and 6, those are both multiples of 3. So I can factor out a 3. 3x divided by 3 is just x. 6 divided by 3 is plus 2. Now what you should notice is that in this binomial I have x plus 2, and this binomial I have x plus 2. That means that I'm doing this right. I want the numbers that are left inside the parentheses to be the same. That is the common binomial that we're talking about in step 5. So step 4 is done. Now it says factor out the common binomial. Well, really this just means to regroup. I can factor out the x plus 2, put that in parentheses, and then together in another set of parentheses, I put in our remaining terms, x plus 3. So what I've done is I've taken my trinomial and I have factored it into two binomials. So this expression here is the exact same thing as this expression here. And we are finished. You can think of this as just going backwards from our lesson on multiplying two binomials. We're simply starting with the trinomial and working our way backwards to get the two binomials that multiply to get it. So we're done with part 5. This is our answer, x plus 2 times x plus 3. Let's look at one more example. So here we've got 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. In this case, we do have an a. 2 is our a. For our b, we have to be careful to realize that this negative is part of it. So negative 5, that's our b. And then our c is 2. So we're going to follow our step-by-step procedure. Step 1 is I need to find two numbers that add to negative 5 and multiply to a times c, which is 2 times 2. So 2 times 2, that's 4. Now I need to find two numbers that multiply to get 4 and add to get negative 5. So if I do this, well, let's see. Factors of 4. 4 and 1. Well, 4 plus 1, that's 5. Not negative 5, so that's not right. 2 and 2. Well, 2 plus 2 is 4. Not negative 5. That doesn't work. Maybe we have a problem here. These are all the positive factors of 4. Maybe if I try some negative factors. How about if I say 4, negative 4, positive 1? Well, negative 4 plus 1, that gives me negative 3. That doesn't quite work. Okay, how about negative 1 and 4? Well, let's see. Negative 1 plus 4, that gives me positive 3. That doesn't work. Oh, but wait, I've been doing this wrong entirely. These would, negative 4 times 1, that's negative 4. Negative 1 times 4, that's negative 4. Not positive 4, which is what I was going for. If I go back here, I want to make both of these negative. That'll give me a positive number. So let's take a look at this now. Negative 4 times negative plus negative 1, that gives me negative 5, which is exactly what I'm looking for. That's my b. So these two terms right here is what we were looking for. So I'm going to go back and I'm simply going to rewrite my expression as 2x squared plus negative 4x plus negative 1x plus 2. All right, so now that I've done that, I group them. First two terms together, last two terms together. Now I want to find a common factor in each one of these. Well, if I look here, 2x squared, negative 4x, 2, negative 4, those both contain a 2. X squared and x, those both contain an x. If I do my division, 2x squared divided by 2x, that just gives me x. Negative 4x divided by 2x, that gives me minus 2. Alright, so now I go over here. Negative 1x plus 2. At first glance, it might not look like we have any common factors here. But remember, we want, inside our parentheses, we want to end up getting x minus 2. Well, what if I factor out a negative 1? Negative 1x divided by negative 1, that gives me x. And negative 2, or positive 2 divided by negative 1, that gives me negative 2, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So I end up with 2x times x minus 2 minus 1 times x minus 2. Now we simply do our last step, which is to factor out our common binomial, which is x minus 2, and put the other two terms together as a binomial. 2x minus 1. That's our answer. That is what we are left with. X minus 2 times 2x minus 1. If we were to multiply these all out, we would end up getting 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. All right, so let's do one final example together. So here we've got 3x squared plus 28x minus 20. So 3, that's our A, 28, that's our B, and negative 20, that's our C. So our first step is to say, okay, 3 times negative 20. Well, 3 times 20 is 60. Positive times a negative, I get negative 60. All right. So I need to find two factors of negative 60 that add to get 28. And since we know this is negative, we know one of our factors has to be positive, one of our factors has to be negative. So we could say that this is 60, negative 1. Well, 60 plus negative 1, that gives me 59. We know that doesn't work. We could say this is positive 1 and 60, or positive 1, negative 60. Add those together, we get negative 59. That doesn't work. 15 and negative 4. But if I add those, 15 plus negative 4 is 11. That doesn't work. How about 30 and negative 2? Well, 30 times negative 2, that gives me negative 60. And if I add them, 30 plus negative 2, I get 28, which is my B. This is the number that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to rewrite my expression as 3x squared minus 2x plus 30x minus 20. All right, group these, first two terms, last two terms. Look for your greatest common factor. Over here, 3x squared minus 2x. 3 and 2 don't share any common factors. X squared and x share a greatest common factor of x. So all I can factor out is my x. 3x squared divided by x gives me 3x. Minus 2x divided by x just gives me minus 2. All right. Now I want to factor something out of here that's going to give me 3x minus 2 inside. Well, they don't share an x, but I've got 30 and 20. Well, the greatest common factor of 30 and 20 is positive 10. All right, so if I do 30x divided by 10, I end up with 3x. Minus 20 divided by 10 gives me minus 2. Notice this binomial and this binomial are exactly the same, which means that we've done our work correctly here. So now we simply regroup them. 3x minus 2 goes over here. Bring our two leftover terms, x plus 10, down here. And I have factored this. All right. 3x squared plus 28x minus 20 equals 3x minus 2 times x plus 10. Now, to kind of sort of prove it to you that this works, I'm going to multiply these out. I'm going to work this backwards, and hopefully we should get this. So remember from our lesson on multiplying binomials, we want to take and we multiply both our terms in the original, or in the first binomial, by both our terms in the second binomial. We're using distributive property twice. So we say 3x times x, that's 3x squared. 3x times 10, that's plus 30x. Negative 2 times x, that's minus 2x. Negative 2 times 10, that's minus 20. If we go back up here and look, isn't that what I have right here? 3x squared. These two are in different order, but that doesn't really matter. Minus 2x plus 30x minus 20. Combine our like terms. 3x squared, 30x minus 2x is plus 28x minus 20, which is what we had to begin with. So all this is factoring is just working out our multiplication backwards. So this right here, 3x minus 2 times x plus 10, that is our answer. So your try it problem for tonight is to factor the expression 2x squared plus 10x minus 8.